What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Happy Halloween, everybody. Do you like my shirt? I know you do. So let's continue talking about stuff that kind of plays into Halloween, right? And I figured what better way to do that than by talking. First, I did a video about vampires. Now we're going to talk about zombies with Task Force Z. So I do have to state just right off the bat, just because I kind of feel the need to say so, I've never really been the biggest fan of zombies. Well, that's not really fair to say. I haven't really been much of a fan of zombies for a few years now. Well, shit, it's going on a decade, actually. Probably more than that. Because I remember when I was still in high school, which is unfortunately more than 10 years ago now, I remember when I was there, that was when everybody started getting like really crazed with zombie shit, like when World War Z came out, and then before that a lot of people were playing like Call of Duty zombies and shit like that. So I mean, people were really big into zombies, and then that was around the same time that The Walking Dead first started. So everybody got all obsessed with that, and I was always just such an individualist that I was just like, I don't want to like all the same things that everybody else likes. And because everybody was just getting into zombies all the time, zombies everything. So I was like, I'm kind of tired of this shit. Like, I'm really tired of zombies. So I haven't really been much into anything having to do with zombies for a while now. But when I saw this coming out, I was like, all right, let me at least see what's going on with it, because it has Red Hood, which is one of my favorite characters. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll check it out. It's actually not that bad. I will say that. It's got an interesting premise. I like it. I don't know where exactly it's going to go, because it doesn't seem like it knows where it wants to go just yet, but then again, who knows? Maybe it'll prove me wrong. So we start out with this, where we see Crazy Quilt is being pursued by, obviously, Man Bat. And so he's trying to get away from him, telling him, like, leave me alone and all this shit. And he just, like, turns around and is like, please, can you let me go? Now, this is one thing I have to mention again, not for any particular reason, just because I kind of feel, again, I feel the need to do so. Matthew Rosenberg wrote this. When I did the review for DC versus Vampires, he's also one of the writers on there, but James Tynion is the other one. This one is just a straight up Rosenberg book, and it's not that I have a problem with Rosenberg's stories. It's usually the way that he characterizes some of his men that I'm just like, did you have to make them so insufferable? But he seems to have kept that, pretty light here, so I will give him credit on that. Let's see. So yeah, this is where Crazy Quilt apparently almost gets eaten, and we see exactly that, because Mad Bat is coming in to try and like fucking eat him, so he literally blasts him with his powers, and I think he like blasts off part of him, like yeah, he blows out his shoulder, and that causes Man Bat to obviously go falling down. So he's just kind of looking. He's like, hello, Man Bat? And then he's like, nah, now you've learned not to mess with Crazy Quilt, you sick. And then he gets just knocked upside the head and shit. So that's where Red Hood kind of comes into the equation. And they're saying, like, I'm going to need you to step away from the ledge while we ask you some questions. So he's not having it. He tries to blast back at Red Hood, who dodges his blast, and then an undead Bane comes out, and that's where he's even saying, like, this is ridiculous, like, I saw you die. So, obviously, if you remember when they set this up, death doesn't really mean much of anything anymore, not to, Amanda Waller. So, he says, I got out and you died. This isn't happening. So Red Hood's just like, well, 2 out of 3, you got right. So he says, you rather get torn in half or thrown off the roof. Bane doesn't always do what I ask, but I can try. So he's like, please, I'll do anything. Just have him let me go. So he's like, all right, fair enough. So he gives him this little like capsule, because apparently they're keeping them alive using like Lazarus technology. Like, you remember the thing that keeps or always brings back Ra's al Ghul? Like, that's apparently what they're using to keep them alive and shit. So once he puts him down, Red Hood tells him, like, now, let's talk about who you've been working for since you escaped from Arkham, what they're smuggling, and what's up with that fucking mustache. So, anyway, he's like, how do you know? And then all of a sudden, Man Bat comes back and grabs him and shit, and is again trying to eat him. So Red Hood is like telling it like, he's like, Bane, get Man Bat off of him. So Bane goes over there and like wrestles him off and shit, and then he calls to like, field leader to Central. And he says, target has been captured, we need pickup. If you want him in one piece, you might want to hurry. So while they're doing that, or after they do that, we see this thing where we have Jason in the shower, and as you remember, he's been brought back from the dead, also by the Lazarus Pit, so there's not really that much of a surprise that he's got all of this just gross-ass scarring. It's unfortunate, because I really do like Jason Todd, but yeah, I guess it would make sense that his body's just all kinds of fucked up. Anyway, so that's when he comes out of the shower, and there's this doctor, what's her name? I don't remember it right offhand, but y'all know how bad I am with names. Anyway, so she's saying, like, you weren't in the decontamination shower for the entire recommended time. So he's just like, okay, yeah, did you have to be watching me and shit? And she's like, observation is part of my job. And if you're implying that I somehow derive some kind of personal pleasure from watching you shower, I can assure you I'm much more interested in dead bodies. It's like, okay. So she said, or he's asking her, like, what's the point of the decontamination and everything? She's saying, well, you were in contact with Man-Bat's bodily fluids, and the Lazarus resin we used to keep him and the others operational should not come in contact with living tissue. And he's like, well, you said that this stuff was safe to be out in the public. She's like, well, yeah, but it's injected into them. So, I mean, that's why it's okay or whatever. She says weapons with diminished cognitive ability and minor cannibalistic tendencies. I meant the resin is safe in a relative sense. So I guess, yeah, that does make sense. Anyway, so she leads him into this room where he ends up running into this other lady. What was her name again? Because he's like, excuse me, ma'am, I don't think it's a good idea for you to be in here. And she's like, I promise you, I'm fine, Mr. Todd, but I appreciate your concern. He's asking, like, well, have we met? And she's like, no, but I know who you are. She says her name is Miss Hobart. You can call me Hannah if you prefer. So he's like, I don't know what the hell you do here, Anna, but this area is for the monsters. And she's like, excuse you. He's like, what? I'm sorry, did I offend you because she was like, he says, excuse me? And she says, yes. And he's like, excuse me for what? She says, if it was unclear to you, I'm a lady. And as such, I would ask that you show some respect. He's like, for what? Are you upset that I said hell? She's like, no. Well, actually, yes. But I actually take, issue with you using that term, monsters. I find that objectionable. She says, aren't the people you're referring to your teammates? He's like, there is no team. He's like, I'm barely here of my own free will, and those things are absolutely monsters. So he's saying, like, his job is to stop them from eating civilians. So she's like, where one sees a monster, another might see a soul struggling for redemption. Or do you believe that some souls are beyond redemption? So he's like, I've spent more time thinking about that than most. And I think I know the answer, but I really hope I'm wrong. So he's asking, like, what the hell do you do here? So that's where she just kind of, like, laughs. And then he's led into another area where they're going to be interrogating Crazy Quilt and shit. And the whole time that he's going, like, he's talking to, like, that other guy that Waller put in place. I can't remember his name either. He was just a generic white scientist guy. So anyway, he's brought into this room with that same doctor from before, and she's just like, hiya, Jason. He says, like, stuck observing the living again, huh? At least this time he's wearing clothes. And she's just like, am I supposed to know what the fuck you're talking about? And when she said that, I was like, wait a minute, are there clones of this chick? Because the fact that she said, like, am I supposed to know what you're talking about? That I was like, that was just a few minutes ago that y'all were talking about that shit. So that's what I'm thinking, like, there's probably multiple versions of her running around too. Anyway, they say hello to Mr. Decker, and it says, we're looking for information on your contact. Who have you been working with since you escaped? And he's just like, get fucked. Anyway, he says, I knew he was going to say that. Didn't I say that he was going to say that, Dr. Shelley? There you go, Dr. Shelley. She's like, you did not. He says, yes, I did. Anyway, open the door and let's see if he won't start talking. So they open the door, and who comes crawling out? Well, not really crawling out, more shambling out, is the Arkham Knight, also zombified and shit. So he immediately starts feeling all, like, nervous, as one would. But Jason also gets a little bit nervous, and he's like, if you have a problem with me, you shouldn't have captured me. So because the dude was saying, like, and this isn't a game, it's a genuine interrogation tactic. I've seen work for years. Besides, we both know you don't have the moral high ground. And that's where he's saying, like, if you have a problem with me, you shouldn't have captured me. And the other dude says, I don't have a problem with you. I have the solution to the problem that is you. So it says, and I didn't capture you. The police did. I traded with them for your release. If you want to leave here, I won't keep you, but I am what is keeping you out of prison. So, of course, Crazy Quilt is starting to freak out more and more. And he's like, get it away and all that shit. And so he's saying, well, Jason's saying, call off the Arkham Knight now. So it keeps getting closer. He's like, Crispin, there you go, Crispin, call it off now or I will personally put down every one of your fucking monsters. And when I'm done with them, I'm coming for you. So, Crazy Quilt is saying, like, please, I'll talk again. He's, like, willing to talk if they'll just get the damn monster away from him. So Crispin's like, see, it works. Dr. Shelley, please make Arkham Knight stand down. So they do that, and then she's saying, like, good girl and all that. So Crispin's like, we're all monsters here, but that doesn't mean we can't be put to good use. because all she had to do was kind of like show her some of those like Lazarus capsules or whatever the hell, and that was enough to like draw her to the like window and shit. So they send them out on their first mission, and Jason's telling them like, listen up, if the information is correct, this is what we've been looking for, but that's a big if coming from a man who calls himself Crazy Quilt. He's like, these are small-time crooks in way over their heads. They're using Arkham escapees to run a smuggling operation. It's not exactly the Legion of Doom. Crispin thinks they'll roll over when we arrive. I don't. Either way, it's nothing we can't handle, but we focus on keeping destruction to a minimum and no killing. I call the shots out there. You don't do what I say, and you don't get any more of this stuff. And without this, it's back in the ground for all of you. Got it? So, if you all see, they also have Mr. Bloom on the team, who will be reminding us multiple times that he's not actually an undead person. He's not actually a zombie and shit. So, this is the first time he does that when they get out of the truck and shit, where he's like, field leader, Mr. Hood, sir, just to clarify, I'm not actually dead. Like you, he's like, I know, Mr. Bloom. He's like, oh, good. What I am is very pleased to be here. Helping you will allow me to not just rehabilitate myself in the eyes of the law, but also he's like, I don't care. So, they go inside, and he's like, does it feel unusually cold in here? But Bane has to say, I don't feel. And then Mr. Bloom is like, curious. And they go over to like all of these boxes because they see it's also full of that like Lazarus resin shit or whatever. And so Jason is saying, why would some small-time crooks have Lazarus resin? To which Mr. Bloom says, ironic to find the very drug that powers our undead teammates here, isn't it? Unless, has our director Crispin been keeping secrets from us? But this is where we see Mr. Freeze comes out. So he's like, oh yeah, you're going to try and steal from me and all this shit? Well, I'll take care of you. So he's telling his like crew, like, bring them to me. So this is where Jason starts running and he's like, Task Force Z, take them down. And I do have to comment on one thing. I find it weird that they have Jason with 2 crowbars, because I know that that's how Joker killed him and shit. So it's just kind of like making an homage to that, or him taking back that symbol and like finding his own power in it. Like, okay, that's kind of cute. But at the same time, I'm like, it just kind of looks weird, you know? I prefer him with the guns. Give him the guns back. Hashtag give Jason back his guns. Anyway. So that's where we see Arkham Knight goes and just immediately impales a dude, to which he's like, Arkham Knight, no, that's a bad. So he goes on saying, like, freeze, under the power of the Federal Task Force Act, I am arresting you for aiding and abetting escaped felons. So he's like, I've done no such thing. And you are no government agents. You are the broken Bat Boy and a handful of dead mental patients. So actually pretty astute. He hit the nail on the head there. Anyway, so we see where he like freezes Bane and shit. So Jason's kind of just like standing there, and then also we have Mr. Bloom hiding behind some boxes, and he's telling him like, you should tell him I'm not dead. Anyway, he says, stay calm, Bane, you're going to be okay. Everyone, we need to work as a team to take down Freeze. And then we can see where Man-Bat also disregarded the no killing rule by already killing someone and shit. So he tries to go after him, but of course Mr. Freeze freezes his ass too, and then he like literally breaks off his head and throws it at Bane, which like shatters him and shit, and you can see Bane's like dismembered head right here. So yeah, he just took out 2 of them. And then Jason's like, fuck this. So Bloom, who's still hiding, is like, this is going terribly. He says, I know, get out there and do something. So he's saying, like, I'm afraid my abilities are greatly reduced with this power inhibitor I've had put on me. I'm not sure I'd be much. So that's where he just, like, ignores him again. He yells out to Arkham Knight and says, go get Freeze. So Arkham Knight immediately goes to do that. And Mr. Bloom is saying, like, but she'll be killed, which Jason does have to say she's already dead, which is a good point. Like, this bitch definitely ain't alive. So we can see where Mr. Freeze immediately like freezes her leg so she can't actually move and shit. And then he's saying like, yes, come die too, Bat Boy, as Jason starts running. So he tries to shoot at him. He's like, he dodges it, of course. He says, too slow, old man and shit. And then he goes and attacks, like breaks his like containment dome thing on the suit and shit. So he knocks him out of the way. And then he kind of like continues dealing with that. And then Jason's telling him, shouldn't have done that. And he's like, hold on, boy, I can't hear you. And I want to savor your last words. He was like, I was saying, just needed you to come closer. Because then he uses this shit to like cause this reaction that crushes Mr. Freeze and shit. So he comes up on him, he says, so I can crush you, you test tube looking piece of shit. Anyway, so he comes up on him, he's like, not looking so good, Victor. Did I mention you're under arrest? To which he replies, you stupid boy, what did you think would happen when you cracked my cooling suit? The gas can no longer be contained. Congratulations, you killed us both. So he's like, oh, come on. Well, that's where the suit does explode, like, sends him flying back, and then it sends the whole room into, like, complete overfreeze, if that's even a term that I can use here. Anyway, so he's saying like he can't move. Then the ice starts like forming on his helmet, so he's not able to breathe. He has to snatch it off, and then he's still like trying to call out to Bloom, but as we can see, Bloom is also like in the snow, I guess that's what it is, right? Anyway, so he may possibly be dead as well. And then he's saying like, when I thaw, I'll come for you. So he's saying like, what the hell is that? Because he hears a sound, and of course, who would it be but Arkham Knight, who is still able to like move and shit, and coming in. If you remember, they're always hungry, so now that Jason can't move, Arkham Knight is coming in to like eat him. At least that's the way it appears. That's where the issue ends right there. But I get the feeling Arkham Knight might actually end up going over there and freeing him. If not, then someone else is going to end up like busting in and saving all of them or something. So I don't actually know. But like I said, it seems like somewhat of an interesting setup as far as like the team, at least, and the way that the team dynamics kind of work. The fact that, you know, they'll just keep bringing these motherfuckers back as many times as they want using this Lazarus resin. Like that should be interesting to see how that plays out. I don't really know, because like I said, with Rosenberg's stories, like they tend to start out okay, but then after like a few issues of like just reading his story, I'm just like, okay, can you wrap it up? Like, can you get to the end already? Because I'm not having fun anymore. It's always like that type of thing when I'm reading his story. So I'm hoping that's not what's going to happen here, but never say never. And I do not allow myself to get my hopes up on this shit anymore. So that's where I'm saying, like, we're going to see. At least the premise is interesting. It's keeping my attention so far. Granted, it's just one issue, but I do kind of like it. Like I said, one of the only other problems I have is, like I said, with Red Hood not having his guns. Like the whole crowbar thing that, they're electric and shit. Like, okay, it looks cool, but at the same time, I'm like, it just doesn't feel like Red Hood anymore, because there are just too many damn changes. But I guess we'll see moving forward what happens with it. But yeah, I don't know if anybody out there has read this. If so, do feel free to share your thoughts with me down in the comments. If you haven't read it, feel free to share your thoughts with me down in the comments. Feel free to tell me what you're going to be for Halloween if you're dressing up. I am dressing up as one of the assassins from Assassin's Creed, so there's that. But yeah, feel free to share any of your Halloween goings on with me. Let me know what's going on with you guys. But yeah, that's going to do it for me on here. So if you enjoyed this video, then definitely make sure to like the video, subscribe, and make sure you are subscribed. Share the video out because I appreciate it so very much. But if you're done here, then go and read a book, maybe this one. And if not, well, then I'll see you on my next video.